Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. It's signed, sealed and delivered Nestory Irankunda to Sporting in Portugal for a huge transfer fee and a ridiculously large buyout clause as part of his 5-year deal. So how will he fare under the intense scrutiny of the Portuguese press? Lucas Herrington, the Hull, was also confirmed this week. The Rangy defender's first minutes in the Premier League could be against Manchester United next weekend. Western United out of the A-Leagues, and the reigning Australian Championship winners want to take their spot. Also this week, we've seen Achilles Socceroo go down with a long-term injury, another one at the centre of a transfer tug-of-war, and an iconic Matilda bolsters Melbourne City. Mopper's got a WSL preview, which this season will feature 13 Australians. The Australia Cup is absolutely chaos, and Team of the Week is back. Mopper, a massive week with some huge transfers, and how about that Irankunda announcement video?
What about the glove? The glove, the car, the... Oh, this is all-star. Ever since he did that, he scored that goal and did that Michael Jackson move, it's just gotten bigger and bigger. Congratulations, Irankunda. You are a star, and star in more ways than one, obviously, with the Michael Jackson theme song. So, yeah, pretty cool for this generation, isn't it? So, yeah, it's all happening and lots to get through tonight. We better get straight into it because it's absolutely action-packed.
Right, let's start with Irankunda. The details of his deal: £17 million, including add-ons to Watford, and I believe that Bayern Munich looks like they've renegotiated the fee because of the release clause. But it's a 5-year deal, reportedly worth €2.5 million per year for Irankunda, plus bonuses. And the release clause, Mopper, €80 million. So let's hope that he hits the ground running, and that, in future years that a big club is coming in and looking at that type of number and thinking that's not too much for this star of the future.
Yep, absolutely. And Sporting, Benfica and Porto are the big three clubs over there, as you all know, and they just don't lose in the league. I think all three clubs only lost 4 games last year in the league itself. And let's just look quickly at why Sporting are in the market for Irankunda, and that's because Chelsea bought their right winger Giovanni Irankunda for a cool £50 million, Chief. And Chelsea snapped him up, a little star there. And they also lost Francesco Trinaco, who went to the Saudi Pro League for nearly $40 million as well. So they were short on the right side, and Sporting, if you look at it, their side obviously trying to cover that gap on that right-hand side, and potentially we know Irankunda can play anywhere along that front line. It's interesting, on the weekend they won 3-2. They drew their first game as well in the league, so they're 1 win, 1 draw. But the Greek man Ionis, he scored and a couple of assists. Young Konocalves, who's been on loan, he scored a goal, and then Kadamo as well got an assist. So all 4 of their front line firing. They've got some good players. He's going in against some a lot of depth there at Sporting, but obviously those big 2, which was Quenda and Trinseo, to the Saudi Pro League, is the reason why Sporting was looking at this market to get Irankunda in to cover those gaps. So a lot of competition over there, though. There's a lot of good players, but he'll fit right into that style. 4-2-3-1 is what Sporting plays, and he'll no doubt play a role there somewhere. But again, the level is going to be another level he's ever had to push for. I know he went to Bayern, but never really cracked that first team. So it'd be very interesting to see how he goes and that settles in that first 6-week period.
Yeah, perfect system for him, that 4-2-3-1, really playing ideally on one of those wider positions in the 3. Obviously, Sporting, one of the bigger clubs in Portugal, and have had some success in the Champions League, going deep into that competition over the past few seasons. But one thing I've seen consistently is that Sporting are also a very good development club, and I think that's really ideal for Irankunda at this time, because no doubt that with that release clause, that's in there so that they can develop Irankunda and sell him on in a couple of years' time. As much as they want him to be a good player for them now, I even saw their coach in a press conference during the week, and he couldn't hide the news for one that Irankunda was signing, but he also couldn't hide his excitement at working with Irankunda. And there might have been a bit of a breakdown in the language barrier, but he said he was anxious to get to work with Irankunda and see what his qualities. And he even said that he's a different type of player to what they have at the moment. So it seems to me that he's looking at him as potentially a bit of an X factor in this team. So I think, yeah, it might be an opportunity maybe to begin with where he's thrown off the bench to change a game, or looking at those opportunities where he can use his weapons, his speed and his strikes on goal and his directness, which maybe some of those other players that you mentioned there before don't have. So it's very exciting times for Irankunda. 5-year deals, lots of security there for him. 2.5 million per year. That's kind of, it might only be the start of what he's getting in his career, but that's absolutely life changing for a kid, given his backstory as well. So couldn't be more thrilled for him. And now I just want to see him hit the pitch and get some game time for Sporting. And obviously, with the wider picture looking into the Socceroos, and hopefully he takes a lot of confidence and brings that into the Socceroos camp as well.
Yep, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head, Chief, and it is a development club, and they do a great job. Look at the talent that's come through there. It's just going to be great. Champions League football, you can't beat. He's going to absolutely love that environment, and it's going to be cool. This is where we want our Australians to play. It's another smart move too. Sporting in Portugal, I think Irakunda's going to have a great time there. So, yep, fun times ahead for Irakunda.
What about the scrutiny at the airport during the week when he's arriving and the million questions he gets asked? And he wouldn't have experienced anything like that before. Even his transfer over to Watford, it was very low key by comparisons. He got a real taste of the type of environment that he's going into, didn't he?
Well, he didn't have his entourage in his glove, did he? He wasn't prepared for it. So, yeah, they fired about 1,000 questions in about 60 seconds. It felt like. What position, where you play, what do you think of Sporting? It was the reporters were well. That's football's their life over there, isn't it? The media intensity is just going to be big, so they expect big things over there. So, like I said, the Benficas and the Portos and Sporting, huge rivalries over there, and yeah, it's going to be an intense league, but it's exactly where we want him and what he needs. He has had a high ceiling for himself for a number of times. He wasn't satisfied what happened with Bayern. He wanted to play football, and he believed he belonged there, and he believed he was, should be starting. And at such a young age, that's the kind of attitude that he has. And this is going to be the perfect environment for him. So it's really cool.
Well, even in that announcement video, they mentioned the sky's the limit, and that was from the mouth of Irankunda himself. So no doubt, as you said, he has those high expectations of what he can achieve on a football pitch. So we wish Nestor all the best. Can't wait to see what he does at Sporting in Portugal. But obviously, the other big news story of the week, we did cover it pretty comprehensively last week, Mopper, but is finally finalised. Herrington to Hull City. 5-year deal, total package looks about the same as Irankunda by the report, £17 million, roughly 33 million Australian, including add-ons. And he's gone and played in a warm-up game today, got his first kind of unofficial minutes for the club, but straight in there. And look, as I said in the intro, exciting for him. He's potentially coming up against Manchester United next weekend, his very first game in the Premier League. So, yeah, exciting times.
It's not just that; it's prime time for Australian Eastern Standard Time, 9:30. So, look, half an hour this morning against Nice, the French club. Is that a sign? I did say there was a key injury to the whole season. One of the best central defenders. He'll be out for a little while. So, yeah, he might slide straight in. This could potentially be a start. Geez, will Hull take the risk? Well, they got nothing to lose. They've been promoted. So, yeah, Man U, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time next Saturday night could draw some great numbers, TV viewers, if he starts or if he's just on the bench. That's pretty much a lot of Man U fans over here as well in Australia. So big numbers will be glued to the TV at 8:30 when the team sheet's out to see whether Herrington makes his debut of that 50th game you were alluding to last week.
I think they've made 11 signings altogether, Hull City, in their quest to stay in the Premier League this season. They are favourites to be relegated, but you do kind of expect that from the team that gets up to the Premier League through the playoffs. But look, they're doing everything they can to try and keep their top flight status, and they're building a young squad there. And I think even looking at Herrington in isolation outside of Hull itself, if he goes there and has a solid season for Hull City, and even if they do get relegated, it's probably one of two situations where he's proven himself at the Premier League level and another Premier League club comes in for him, or he's established himself in that Hull City program and he goes back to the championship and tries to build with Hull City to get back up to the Premier League. But either situation isn't the worst. Obviously, you'd love for him to stay in the Premier League, but at 18 years old, it's all about the experience.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, what better play to expose yourself than in the number one Premier League? It's the world's most watched league in the whole world. So there's going to be huge exposure for the young man, and it's just a great stepping stone. We've seen clubs do it with the right buys, being able to survive. And Hull City was in the Premier League not long ago as well at KC Stadium there. So they've had experience. So they're every chance to stay up, even though the boogies have it the other way.
All right, let's move on to another one of our Socceroos centre backs. And unfortunately, this is not good news because Swansea have announced this week that Cam Burgess has ruptured his Achilles. And no doubt, as we saw with Harry Souttar, that is a long road back for Cameron Burgess, looking at the best part of a year, if not more. Such unfortunate news for Burgess, who went to Swansea last season, had a very solid season, obviously started a couple of those first few games at the World Cup for the Socceroos and has been a big part of the Socceroos, particularly with Harry Souttar being out, providing that experience in that back line. And he's going to be a big miss. And I suppose the silver lining is that we have unearthed Lucas Herrington in the last 12 months, and he's an ideal replacement. But yeah, really sad news for Cam Burgess. And I suppose then we look at options to bring in for the Asian Cup.
Yeah, you're right. Look, The Rock played every game for Swansea last year after his transfer, and yeah, that's going to be a huge miss for Swansea as well. He didn't miss a beat, and such sad news. You hate to see this, especially at this age. So he's got a bit of a recovery, but we wish him well. Unfortunately, we've lost a few players to this injury. Lewis Miller as well copped a same similar injury too, and is out for a long time. So look, I think the World Cup shown us that we have a lot of depth anyway. You've seen Rolls, he didn't even make the side in the end. And, there's plenty of players that you mentioned as well that are on the fringes. Stennis, who might, get some Champions League football as well. He's in a playoff. Dan Hall, like you've said in the J League, not that his side's off to the best start over there, but he's still starting. Jake Gerwood Reich has been starting every week in Scotland, so that's good news. Mark Natter, young potential, went to Serie B, and even Kikianis in Australia, huge raps on him, and a lot of people after his transfer from Adelaide as well. So, I like Esposito's another one. The list goes on. I think we're in this golden generation at the moment of development. So I think this is just going to give someone else an opportunity. And like I said, Herrington stepped in the Burgess' spot after America and never gave it back. So I think we're blessed at the moment with centre backs.
Yeah, agree. Agree that there's lots of options there. I suppose the only thing is Lucas Harrington bucks his trend anyway, but having a left-footed left centre back if you need that on that side. But yeah, you'd like to think that players are reasonably adaptable to that kind of style anyway. But look, really unfortunate news for Cam Burgess, and we wish him all the best in his recovery. Hopefully, it's a shorter long-term injury rather than a long one. And look, at 30 years old, he's still got some football ahead of him. So let's hope he comes back bigger and better than ever for Swansea and for the Socceroos as well. We also saw Jalen Pearman during the week. It was announced that he is going on loan from QPR to Swindon Town for the season. What do you make of that move for Pearman?
Yeah, look, Swindon Town just missed the playoffs last year, so they're highly competitive in League Two. He just needs football. Had a great Asia Cup. He was, again, one of those players that were part of that under-20 Asia Cup successful team. So a great generational crop. He just needs football, and he's at that young age where he just needs to play. Look, I'm not like super impressed that he's in League Two, but I don't think there's any other choice for him at that age. He hardly got a game with QPR when he first went over there 12 months ago, which is understandable for a 19-year-old trying to break into the championship. It's a very difficult league to break into at a really young age. So I think League Two, League One, there's plenty of football there. So yeah, let's get out there and star. We've seen a lot of Borgs Rodriguez have a crack at League One. We've seen Sammy Silvera have a crack at League One this year. So there's plenty of Aussies around that mark. The competition depth in these leagues over there are just getting stronger and stronger. So no concern at 20. Then he can go back and you spoke about just QPR reassessing him when he gets to 2021 and go from there. But football's the prime objective at the moment. And I think that's where a lot of these Aussies have made smart choices.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If you were to go to League One, would he get the game time that we would want? And you'd think that going down to that level that he would get consistent game time, which is what it's all about at his age, playing against established players and putting yourself up against that every week. So we'll follow Jalen Pearman throughout the season. We've got a little bit of an update on him a little bit later. Harry Souttar in a bit of a tug-of-war mopper. Sheffield United reportedly have offered £8 million for him. Leicester want that to be 10 million. They've offered it. Have obviously given him the captain's armband as well, leading the team out. But yeah, it looks like Souttar would like to leave. That would be his preference, but it's about them lining up the transfer fee.
Yeah, look, everything I read angles for Wrexham. So I'm not sure whether that could be validated in the next 48 hours. I'm speaking to some football friends today that they're not happy that he's in League One. I did say he's been off for 12 months and he's pretty much his last couple of games in Leicester and World Cup was all he's played. But no, they want him in even lower league in the Premier League, so lower teams in the Premier League. But not sure if there's much Premier League interest. We know there's strong interest from Wrexham, Sheffield United, in the Championship. We've heard a little bit about West Ham, but my money's probably on Wrexham. It's the most sound information that I could find in the last 24 hours. So don't be surprised if Wrexham goes in for him. And we know Sheffield United's former coaches there, so it might come down to a personal choice. But we know League One is not at his standard. And I think this deal will get done before August 31st. So for my friends who are following Souttar that want him to go up into a higher level, I think you're going to get that wish because I don't think Leicester, who is rumoured to be up for sale as well. So I don't think there's much stability in that Leicester City with the owners looking to sell their stake.
All right, and just quickly before we go around the grounds, Courtney Vine to Melbourne City. Obviously, her iconic penalty against France in the 2023 World Cup. Unfortunately for Courtney Vine, her career probably hasn't gone as she would have hoped from that point from a number of different reasons, but hopefully that's coming back to the A-League and to Melbourne City, who, a fantastic club and a very successful club that can get Courtney Vine's career back on track.
Yeah, look, Joe reached out to Courtney Vine a couple of times, so still around that mark of the Matildas. And I think returning home's just a smart move for her, yeah. I think she's going to be a lot more happier at home. And I think with Melbourne City, the bonus is that they play in Asia and they always have deep runs into Asia. I think did they get knocked out in the semi-finals last year and then finalists the year before? So they've always had deep competitive runs at the higher elite competition for women's football in Asia. So they've got a couple of carrots, unlike the other Ninja A-League teams. So very smart club to go to for Courtney Vine, the former Sydney FC player.
All right, Muppet, take us around the grounds, mate.
Wow. Woof. Let's start. Well, the championship is back, and am I excited to see this young fella back, Riley McGree, as Borough, They win 2-1 at home, and obviously we've seen Riley McGree for the first time before the World Cup. He got hurt in that playoffs, and it was devastating that he missed the World Cup. He would have been in that squad, we all know, and he would have played a part. So straight back into it, picked up an assist, and it was against Lincoln, and we did have some new boys there, Joe Gauci and Callum Elder, but for some reason, I don't understand why they didn't start or get a run, but they were unused subs, so we'll have to bide our time to see Gauci and Elder in Lincoln's team. But well done to Riley McGree. Nice little, he beat his player one-on-one, drove to the line, cut it back, and nice finish there from his teammates to get all 3 points. And Borough would be one of those teams you'd think once again pushing for automatic promotion. They pretty much threw it away last year. They were in the top 2 all season until the last couple of games, and then they had that scandal last year with Southampton that just they couldn't recover from. Let's go to QPR. They beat Portsmouth 3-1. Pompey's got a hell of a lot of injuries to deal with at the moment, and they did last year too. And QPR took advantage of that, winning 3-1 away. Good news for the Aussies. Keely Adamson was on the bench in this one, but he was brought on early due to an early injury in the 19th minute. But obviously we have strong connections there, but a lot of our Aussies on the books of Pompey are injured, and QPR have obviously loaned out Pearman and Benny. So no other Aussie connections in the matchday squad, but great work from Keely Adamson getting on. That's fantastic, and he'll have a good year this year. He might be able to start next week and cement his spot, which is really cool. Mo Toure, he started and played 86 minutes. His side were no match for West Brom. It was always going to be tough. West Brom, very strong side, and unfortunately they went down 2-1. We go down a division to League One, and we've seen Harry Souttar as captains Leicester, as we said, but his side could only manage a 1-1 away to Notts County, a strong lower league team, Notts County. And there was also 67 minutes as well for young Aussie striker Lucas Smith, who started for Notts County. So watch out for Luca this year. He's going to get plenty of game time. And newly promoted MKD, who comes second last year in League Two, got automatic promotion, led in a late goal as Oxford, who were relegated from the Championship last year, drew 2-2. We did have one Aussie in there, transfer to Milton Keynes, which was Sammy Silvera, but he wasn't on the team sheet. But we have Geethan Jones, who's played for MKD for quite a while. He played a full game. So congratulations to Geethan. League One and a 2-2 draw, but they did throw away 2 points. The promoted teams, they'll learn. They have to always learn the hard way, don't they? Conceding that late goal. Chief, what about League Two? As we've got a few more Aussies and a couple of teams in Europe as well.
Yeah, so we mentioned before Jalen Pearman going to League Two with Swindon. So he made his debut off the bench in a 0-0 draw against Northampton Town. And also fellow Aussie Kalen Majikadunmi starts at centre back and plays 67 minutes in the 0-0 draw. So a couple of exciting young Australian talents on the books there at Swindon Town, as well as David Carney on the coaching staff as well, working under Ian Holloway. In Germany, we've got Sam Klein. He gets his first competitive minutes for St. Pauli as they concede late to draw 2-2. Klein got 5 minutes off the bench in that one. No sign of Connor Metcalf, so not sure what's happening with his situation. In the Netherlands, Max Ballard is introduced in the 55th minute, but his Nakbrader couldn't overturn 2 first-half goals and lost 2-0. And Josh Nisbet helps steer his side to a 2-1 win and a typically busy 90 minutes for the diminutive midfielder. Of course, those two boys playing in the second division in the Netherlands after Breda were relegated last season, and Roda JC still in that competition, looking to get promoted into the Eredivisie later this season.
Chief, I can't get anything on Connor Metcalf. I heard a little bit about the championship. Would you follow Jackson Irvine to the J League? I can't get nothing on Connor Metcalf. So any listeners out there who have any scoops of where Metcalf's landing, it's very late in the window now for him to getting first team football, because obviously being left out of St. Pauli, so he must be looking for a move somewhere. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens with him. All right, let's go to Scotland. Well, Scotland's been busy. We've got Cup football, League football, European qualifying football, but we'll start with Motherwell first, who won 2-0 during the week, and they got through their Europe qualifier, and they won 3-1 overall to make the final playoff for the Conference League qualifiers. So they have drawn Freiburg, very interesting side, Freiburg. So they're going to have a bit of a challenge to get past them. The Aussie connection here, obviously Priestman, Katrumbis, and Gertwood Wright all started in the win. So great to see the Aussie connection all starting in that 2-0 win. So good news there for the Aussies. Yeah, Motherwell, big game against Freiburg coming up soon. Rangers, unfortunately, the news doesn't get any better for those Rangers fans. They draw 1-1 as Cam Davlin comes off the bench in this one, but they drop down to now Conference League playoffs for their last chance of European football. So not the news Rangers fans would like, and they're up 1-0 in that one as well, but conceded, and they lose 2-1 obviously in that one. Hibs, they had a good result, drew 0-0 in Europa Conference League qualifying, but progressed 2-1 aggregate to progress. Martin Ball played 19 minutes off the bench. Idale and Pseudo were unused subs in the Conference League qualifier, but they've still got one more part to go before they make it officially. The Scottish Cup was overnight, where Celtic, they smashed Dundee United. They're in hot form, Celtic, 4-0. Aussies, Satsford, Rose, Rawlings all started, and Benny even come off the bench. He replaced Satsford in the 63rd minute, but Celtic look cracking as they are flying in all qualifiers and league this year. So hard loss there for Dundee United. Chief, what about some more European wraps?
I tell you what, mate. Oh yeah, before I do, I'll tell you what, don't sleep on Motherwell this season to push Celtic in the league with the way that Rangers have started. Derek McInnes, their manager, under huge pressure. They play St Mirren tonight, who we know have started with 2 straight wins with the Aussie boys at St Mirren. So yeah, huge amount of pressure on Rangers. We know how slow they started last season, and Motherwell fell away back end of last season, but they were very good, and they've started pretty well this season as well. So it'd be good to see them almost to our hearts from the season before, with so many Aussies at the centre of what they're doing there.
Oh, absolutely. And starting every week, it's very, very good. A lot of players in Scotland this year having a good start to the season.
All right, mate, let's go to Slovenia. Yaya Dekuli scores an absolutely cracking goal as his side, Solje, won 2-0 and qualify 3-2, and will now play in the playoffs for a chance to join the Champions League. They play Slovakian side, Slovan Bratislava, for that golden ticket. But what a strike that was during the week. He's just picked it up first time on the volley and just cracked it home with his left foot. Absolutely outstanding goal from Dekuli. He then scored again overnight in his side's 3-1 win, with them remaining unbeat to start the season. So he's had a very good start to his time in Slovenia, Yaya Dekuli, and yeah, it'd be amazing to see them continue to push and hopefully make the Champions League. That would be an outstanding result.
Yeah, well, talking about the possibility, obviously, with Irankunda now in Champions League, how many Aussies would join him? So a few more playoffs to continue, obviously, in the next week or two. We could possibly have up to 5 players in the Champions League if we're successful. And what a start to the season Dukley's had. It might be a bolter for the Brazil friendly, Chief. This is very good form leading into selection for this kind of football, playing Champions League football if they make it.
There's plenty of wingers putting their hand up, and a few more that we'll cover in just a sec. But let's quickly go to Norway, because fellow Aussie Gianni Stensnes will also play in the Champions League playoffs, with Viking being drawn against Dinamo Zagreb. However, in the league, they suffered a 2-1 defeat to Rosenborg, and now the title is in Bodo Glimt's hands. So yes, they need Bodo Glimt to slip up a little bit. Stensnes played 90 minutes in that game. He's getting consistent game time, and hopefully his club can continue to push Bodo Glimt all the way in that competition. And mentioning those wide players, it's a great night for Marco Tilio in the Conference League qualifiers as well. He scored the opening goal for Rapid Vienna in their 2-0 win over Podi, and winning 6-1 on aggregate. And they'll wait now for their playoff opponent. So, yeah, Aussies doing particularly well, probably Rangers aside in the European qualifiers.
All right, now over to Italy, we have Parma in the Coppa Italia advance. They won 2-0 with a good win over Catania, with a full game for Siccardi back doing the business with Parma. Still a lot of speculation about his move. A couple of big clubs did rule out that they're not going for him in this window, but watch this space. Anything could happen with Siccardi, but straight back into the business, doing the job for Parma with a good win. Czech Republic, we've got Garan Quols, Sparta Prague. They unfortunately dropped out of Champions League qualifying and will compete in Europa League this season after they lost their two-legged tie to Lyon 4-2. That's a tough opponent. But Europa League are still on the horizon for them, and they are qualified due to that Champions League loss. Sweden, we have Daniela Gallic provides an assist in Vitso's GIK record, a 2-1 win over AIK as she provides hot form. She's been in great form this year. Malmo also to record a big 6-0 win with Courtney Nevin playing 90 minutes, while Amy Sayer as a second half sub and Charlie Grant on the bench but unused. Good to see her back on the bench at least. Hopefully get some game time soon. Our Rosengard trio of Remy Simpson and Broly Henry and Izzy Gomez all start again, but unfortunately they lose 1-0 to remain in the relegation zone.
Right, let's head over to Japan, mate. Teddy Yengi in some very hot form, 2 from 2, as Machida Zelvia starts strong against JEF United. Mitch Duke started as well and grabs the assist for Teddy Yengi. Yes, chased down the ball on the left and clipped it over. Nice chest control from Yengi before slotting it home. Unfortunately, on the other side of the pitch, Dan Hall played 90 minutes for JEF United, and yeah, they've started the season with a couple of losses. Unfortunately, it could be a long season for JEF United. Unfortunately, so Machida won this one 4-0 and are top of the league early doors in the J League. We also saw Jackson Irvine come off the bench for Cerezo Osaka as they start poorly, 2-0 down. Jackson Irvine's called upon at halftime as he makes his debut, but they fall 3-0 in the end. Great news to see Eli Adams come off the bench for Gamba Osaka for his debut in the 69th minute as they rescue a 1-1 draw against Mito. And Steve Corica got his first win for Yokohama F. Marinos with a 1-0 win against Shimizu Pulse. Yes, they threw that one away last week, so good to see them holding on for the win this week. China, we see Kevin Muscat's Shanghai Port win 3-2 to maintain their mid-table status in China. And it was the Aloisi Derby, Ross's Zhejiang Professional jump out to a 2-0 lead before John's Chengdu Rongcheng comes storming home to win 3-2. The win has Chengdu 14 points clear with 7 games to go. Yes, younger brother got one over older brother in this one.
Yeah, it looks like that title's pretty much all wrapped up now after they're in a bit of a run and poor form there with, I think, 5 draws and a loss, Chengdu. So back on the winners sheet. All right, let's go over to the USA. Sam Kerr shows her great smarts and timing, scoring the winner in Gotham's 2-1 win over Kansas City, becoming the first player in NWSL history to score 80 regular season goals. Is there any records that she hasn't broken, Chief? She just keeps knocking them
Isn't that incredible, the fact that she hasn't been there for years?
down.
I know she was prolific when she was first there, but she hasn't been there for so long. And incredible.
Oh, mate, just yeah. Look, we know she's the GOAT. Mackenzie Arnold makes 5 save in Portland's 2-1 win over Orlando, who are 4th in the NWSL. In the MLS, we also had Archie Goodwin play 34 minutes off the bench as Charlotte won 3-1 against Columbus. And another former Adelaide player, Luka Jovanovic, played the second half in San Jose's 3-1 loss to St. Louis. So great to see Luka get on the field and get some game time. So looking for some good things out of Luka Jovanovic there with high raps on his, one of the equal Golden Boot winners of the A-League last year. So that's Luka and Archie Goodwin, the two pretty much Golden Boots from last year and the year before in America. In Canada, we've seen Kelly Johnson open the scoring for Carrigal Wild with a back post header, and their side won 4-3 over Ottawa, and Ottawa was on top of the table in this one. So well done to Calgary getting that win. And also overseas news, Saudi Arabia. We've seen Ange Ball. All the focus was on Ange Ball this morning without Ronaldo, and they start with a bang, 3-0 winners over Al Fateh. But I also want to mention Arthur Papas also the night before started life in Saudi with a 4-2 win yesterday as well. So we're first and third. Game one in Saudi Arabia. The Aussies taking the charge up in Saudi Arabia. So great to hear. All right, let's switch our attention to the Women's Super League preview. Starts on Friday, 4th of September, but I thought we'd have a quick look at the draw and have a look at some of the Aussies in the Women's Super League. Obviously, we had a big couple of Aussie Matildas leaving the WSL, but stay strong, Matildas fans, because there's lots of girls that are in the WSL this year. The season kicks off on Friday, the 4th of September, and London City open with Man U on the Friday night. London City is one of our stalwarts in there, our Asia Cup player of the year this year, Alana Kennedy. So, and they've bought unbelievable. So London City, no doubt, we're worried about the depth for this competition, but London City will definitely be up there challenging those big 4 or 5 this year. Then Chelsea play Villa on the Saturday, and on Sunday we see Brighton and Arsenal, which is an all-Aussie clash. We also have Spurs versus West Ham. We all got Claire Hunt there for Spurs. And Charlton versus Liverpool. We've got 3 new Charlton players from Australia starting in that side. And Crystal Palace play Everton, and which we've got, obviously, Holly McNamara made her move there, and Claire Wheeler obviously there for Everton. And then we have Man City and Birmingham, which we know we've got the defending champions with Mary Fowler. So obviously, Alana Kennedy opens up against Man U. Very strong squad, and the expectations are high. Life without Kerr, as Ellie Carpenter will host Villa. So Ellie Carpenter representing the Chelsea team now with no Kerr. And like I said, all Aussie affair. Don't forget we've got coach Dario Vidicic and player Charlie Rule for Brighton. Host the all-star Aussie connection of Caitlin Ford-Catley and the return of Cooney Cross. Like I said, with Tottenham, Claire Hunt, they open at home versus West Ham. And newly promoted Charlton welcome our 3 new girls. And Everton, obviously, away, who obviously have McNamara joining Wheeler. McNamara from Melbourne City had a great year in Asia and at home last year. And can't wait to see Mary Fowler fully fit and raring to go. So a little bit of a wrap there for the Aussie Matildas and women in the Women's Super League. 13 players all up so far to tackle the start of the Women's Super League on September 4.
I'm so excited, Mopper, to see the likes of Holly McNamara, how she's going to fare in this competition. The likes of Grace Johnson and Leah Davidson, how they go at Charlton this season, as well as, I suppose, the return of Cooney Cross, as you mentioned, hopefully a fully fit Mary Fowler with a good preseason behind her. And then some of the youngsters like Charlie Rule, like we've seen bits and pieces of her with the Matildas, so hopefully she continues to push on as well. So really exciting times for this group of Matildas in the WSL, and it's exciting times. And just looking at that fixture list from the first round, every single game is going to feature an Aussie or has the potential to feature an Aussie. So we're going to see plenty of them in action. There's going to be plenty of all Aussie clashes throughout the season, and it's a very exciting time for some established Matildas, but as mentioned, particularly I'm looking forward to seeing how some of the youngsters respond to the intensity and the pressure of this league.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some next gen, and we've got some high-profile Matildas. So World Cup, obviously, next year, fast approaching. It's just great to see the numbers still strong for the Women's Super League. Obviously, with those couple of noted absentees now, which was obviously Kerr and Gorry taking a pause. So, yeah, this is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see these girls. I'll be cheering for Charlton, obviously, with the 3 there. But we're just so well spread, aren't we, across the whole Women's Super League? There's going to be talking points and Aussie battles every week. Like, look at Brighton and Arsenal. We've got 4 Matildas in action. And the possibility of them starting each week, which is what they've been doing week in, week out. And obviously, it just doesn't get much better. It's becoming one of the top leagues with obviously America, and they've pretty much taken the mantle and driving forward as the number 1 league now. Sweden behind it. France is obviously was also highly competitive as well, but a lot of transfers and a lot of players are coming to England this year, and it's going to make it very highly competitive across the board. There's going to be a cracking season in this Super League. You're going to see some record numbers, I've got no doubt.
All right, let's leave overseas for now because there's plenty happening at home as well. And let's start with the news coming out on Monday that the APL chair, Stephen Conroy, confirmed that Western United's club participation agreement has now been terminated. Of course, they were in hibernation for the previous A-League season, 25-26. There was some whispers that potentially they were going to come in 26-27, but obviously with the draw being announced and they weren't part of those plans, we knew that they weren't going to be around for 26-27. But with this news, the APL have pretty much put a line through them for good in terms of them coming back into the competition. So yeah, it's a bit of a black mark, I suppose, on the whole process around Western United. They, of course, were one of the championship winners, and I think about their 3rd season. But really, when you look back at the project, Mopper, they never really had a base. They did play, I think, maybe the last season or season and a bit out of Tarneet, their training facility, but that was always supposed to be their stadium, and they were supposed to have all the residences built around that, and it was the potential for it to be an amazing thing was really great. But I suppose you really need all the pieces to come together, and it just didn't for Western United. So look, it's an unfortunate situation. I really feel for the people who were at the club and worked so hard to get the club to where it was and everything that they've had to go through. But yeah, it's just not a positive step for the APL, unfortunately.
It was a huge gamble, and it's become a huge failure, unfortunately. And the consequences are harsh. It's not just the senior teams that are affected; it's all the way from top to bottom. The community itself as well. I think they're even taking down bits of the stadium now to try to. I seen a shocking story about, what it's turning into out there. It's sad, very sad for football when there's negative like this. But the huge gamble was there was no football merit in this story. It was all a gamble based on property and what was proposed. And when there's no football merit, there's no stability and no culture and custodians underneath the base from the beginning. And when you create something, it's huge risk, especially in this Australian market. And unfortunately, we've seen some poor financial dealings off the pitch that's led to this as well, and have really let that community down. It's never good talking about these stories, but unfortunately, it's reality now. At least, I guess, from the APL and Western United, they put out a statement say they'll come back, which hopefully one day is true, and they'll form a football club out there to serve that community in whatever division that may look like. But yeah, it's just very sad when you see stories like this, which again comes back to the root cause of not selecting clubs that are founded already based or have the football pyramid and have got there on merit. And this is the risk that we need to remove and make it football merit only when it comes to promotion or providing a team for an entry into the A-League.
All right, that segues nicely into Tuesday, mate, because it didn't take long because on Tuesday, South Melbourne issued this statement. South Melbourne FC wishes to signal its intention to open formal dialogue with the Australian professional leagues and relevant stakeholders regarding the prospect of securing future A-League men's and A-League women's licenses. The club believes the time is right to explore a return to the highest level of domestic football building on the significant progress South Melbourne has made both on and off the pitch. Now, Loppe, you and I have spoken at length about how we think that if you are to set up this pyramid correctly, that we do need promotion and relegation, and you just mentioned it then. We want that promotion to be based on football merit. However, it doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. And if you are to bring in another club that is an established club, you do really well to find a better club than South Melbourne have. Fighting on all fronts, NPL, Australia Cup, Australian Championship, OFC Pro League. They're doing everything they possibly can to be competitive and to be ambitious. So it's a very interesting situation now because this has obviously been put to the Australian professional leagues, and either it's going to come about and South Melbourne are going to gain entry, or it's not going to come about. And I can see that being a very tricky situation if it's knocked back as well. So it's very interesting to see how this one's going to land.
Look, from a football lens, this club should already be in the A-League. If you look at everything, it has it all. I guess, I suppose, are they worried about Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City being so close within that region? But we've seen it before, established football clubs, and we're not just talking about, South Melbourne, founded 1959, known as South Melbourne United or Hellenic. Hellas is what they were previously known for. Are famous custodians of Australian football. They're not only just famous in Melbourne, they're famous. They were crowned Oceania Club of the Century, like National League champions. They've developed and Big Ange and the history behind it, the coaches that they've had, the fan base that they've had. They've always been there and they've never shut up shop, and they've always led from the front. No matter what it is, they challenge themselves to be the best. Once again, they've stated it again, and they have everything that you could ever possibly want. So I wish them all the best. I think it's great timing that they just come out and say, hey, we're still here. We're still OFC last year, national champions last year as well. Can there be any better fit? I just look. I don't follow South Melbourne. I don't have any association with South Melbourne, but from a football lens, this is the number one club in Australia that has the ability and capability to survive well beyond and push through everything to establish themselves in the A-League and more. If you said they want Asia, they will target Asia and go for that as well. You could hear that in their ambition. And these guys are dead set serious, and women are dead set serious. So, look, it's a low risk. There's actually no risk. It's not even a gamble. I know Canberra want to get in as well, but again, we talk about promotion relegation and the pyramid. Well, the pyramid at the moment is the Australian Championship, and they won it. So, is there any other argument? I just don't understand why they just don't make this happen.
Well, why don't we just put them in the same time as Canberra? I think Canberra had the option of 28, 29. So put them in the same time, even competition. I know that might be a bit late in some people's eyes, but look, I just think that, as said before, you'd like a pyramid where, the second tier, the winner of that gets promoted to the A-League, the last place in A-League drops down, but it seems like that's a fair way off just at the moment. So if you're going to pick an established club, and as we were just mentioning before, when you run, we've seen the success of clubs like Auckland FC when they've come in, but we've seen plenty of other clubs fall by the wayside when we're starting them from scratch. This is bringing in an established fan base. I've seen arguments that we don't need another Victorian club, but I don't think you're going to see them pinch any crowds from Melbourne Victory or Melbourne City. I think they've got their own fan base. Yeah. And if anything, it's automatically for me that makes that derby against Melbourne Victory a bigger derby than the Melbourne City Melbourne Victory derby straight away.
100%
in the first season. You imagine those crowds that are getting out to that game. It'd be absolutely amazing. Yeah, as I said, I don't have any vested interest in South Melbourne at all, but I just love the narrative around it, and I just think that the A-League could do a lot worse than to at least speak to South Melbourne, entertain it. Still, what they need to do. But look, they're established. They look like they're financially pretty well set up. Question marks from some people around their stadium, but like there's opportunity in that as well. Like, yeah, I just don't think it's an issue. Like, just get it done, I think, and they could just they could actually add so much more value to the A-League than a brand new established club in a region where you're not sure how it's going to go. In my opinion.
Yep, absolutely. I hear your words, and yeah, we watched this space. I don't think there's been a response to those comments, but it wouldn't hurt like you said, when Canberra come in and it's 14 teams. You know what I mean? Like this, it's just another what's that? 28 games it gets us up to now, which would be perfect. Just makes sense, doesn't it? So, or 20, yeah, just make it happen.
It would be 26 and 26
sorry.
and add in a
Got
few more
excited.
derbies, like unless you want to, try and even out the competition somehow. But it's a no-brainer, really, for me.
Yeah, no brainer. And look, the Hung Cup, as we're about to speak of very shortly, just shows that the country and the league itself is just crying out for a promotion relegation. Just needs to happen. A second league, just everything points towards it, doesn't it? Australian football can sustain it, and it'll bring probably the jump that it needs to get to that next level, and broadcasting everything as well. So, look, hopefully they're working on this behind the scenes and just comes quicker than rather than later, because don't we need an injection full time?
Absolutely, mate. I completely agree. And the thing is that, like, if we're doing it on football merit or financial viability, you start to reward clubs that are running themselves well, and you start to punish. And I saw Stephen Mork make a good point today around something similar. It's like, well, you're putting players in that type of environment where matches matter. Like, when you're playing these kids and you're taking their pressure off completely. I can see that there's an argument there where it's like, okay, well, they get to kind of showcase, but what happens when they go over and play in, I don't know, anywhere in Europe, for example, and you get in a relegation scrap? Can you deal with it? Or you're so used to this league where there's nothing on the line that you can't do it. Like, we want to build resilience into our players as well. So many arguments for it. All right, Adelaide City, congratulations to them. NPL South Australia Championships, which means, of course, that they qualify for the Australian Championship. Speaking of past NSL powerhouses, last seen in the NSL in 2002, 2003, saw some of the scenes there that on the night they qualified, absolutely outstanding, Mopper.
This is what football's all about, isn't it? It's these clubs want to belong, and wow, they're going to get a shot at the Australian Championship, and again, hopefully that longer term vision has been able to reach, because these clubs can aspire to be that club that one day makes it to the big league, and you can see how much it means to people. So fantastic news for Adelaide. They just snuck in by a point. Great job. And yeah, we had Metro Stars last year. Now we've got Adelaide City back, the former powerhouses of the NSL. Oh, and Chief, let's go on. Let's finish on a high. What a week last week was of the Australian Cup round of 16. It was the penalty shootout-a-thon and some absolute cracking games that show us that the dream is alive. And after recording last Sunday night, we're following South Melbourne, who nearly got knocked out. And they started the run of penalty shootouts, didn't they? The commencing in the round of 16 ties. They were up 2-0 South Melbourne. We thought, oh, this is an easy tie and cruising, before finding themselves on the cusp of elimination, 3-2 down, before a penalty equaliser and then an extra time, a 3-1 penalty shootout on a night where they had 44 shots just to scrape through in a penalty shootout. Credit to Fremantle City. They were absolutely amazing, and they'll return back to the WA where they sit fourth in their league. But what a classic they produced last Sunday. On Tuesday night, there was the shocks. Here we go. We fought Melbourne City. were left all alone on one side of the draw, and we thought, what a good ride that's going to be. Well, they come back to a thud. Melbourne City found themselves on what they thought the best side of the draw, Chief, and with not a single A-League team on that side, but someone forgot to tell Lions FC from Queensland, who sit first in the NPL Queensland, mind you, and they were runners-up last year, and they didn't have the majority of possession, but they were matching them. But they outshot City 17-5 and had all the big chances, and they made City pay with an own goal before sealing victory with Mitchell Hoare in the 62nd minute, going to a 2-0 win, and have now put themselves in the box seat to challenge for the Hahn Cup, because the draw is just so open on that side. Let's go down south in New South Wales. The Hahn Cup upsets continue in an extraordinary replay of last year's Hahn Cup as well, which seen the local derby again be played. SD Raiders versus Macarthur. Last year, the Bulls hammered the Raiders, but with a strong season in the NPL 1, the SCA Raiders were 7th and on the cusp of the playoffs in the NPL New South Wales. They produced their biggest game of all time, locked at 0-0 in normal time. Macarthur scored in extra time of this one, only for an own goal to square the match in extra time, forcing another penalty shootout, which they dispatched all 5 of their penalties for a 5-3 win and winning the derby and knocking Macarthur out of the cup in extraordinary scenes at SD Raiders. So congratulations. And Chief, we go over to Wednesday where the action just got even better.
Yep, no shortage of drama on Wednesday night either. All 3 games had NPL League 1 sides, apart from one team, NPL 2 Victoria, which was North Sunshine Eagles, who was sitting at lowly 13th in that league, taking on the finalists of last year, Heidelberg. So drama early as Heidelberg down to 10 men with Collins sent off, but they made it through 120 minutes. Geez, they were under the pump though. Before slight drama at the end, the old instructions on the drink bottle with the opposition keeper sneaking around the back. I was watching, wondering what he was doing, sneaking around the back, and then it started kicking off on the sideline. So a bit of antics there from both sides. The Eagles won the shootout 4-3, creating history. Geez, there was some composure on some of those penalties as well for a club that's struggling in NPL 2 Victoria. But yes, through to the quarterfinals, and I think the commentators labelled it probably the biggest win of the club's history. Preston Lions, this one was a bit more straightforward, shrugged off any concerns of an upset with a dominant 4-1 win over Brunswick Juventus, although they did go down 1-0 early, but recovered very nicely. And the Battle of New South Wales, 1 versus 2 on the ladder in the NPL, fought out a pulsating contest in a match destined for penalties. This one was RP Leica versus Sydney United. Even contest, RP finishing with 10 men, but Oliver Kalach, the 23-year-old, obviously son of Zelko Kalach, was the hero for Apia. Made some outstanding saves during the game as well, but 3 saves during the penalty shootout, and Apia won 3-2 on penalties. So that means that Sydney FC and Melbourne Victory, the only 2 A-League sides remaining in the draw, they are both on the left-hand side of the bracket. So it'll be Sydney FC taking on SD Raiders on Tuesday, the 18th of August. RP Leichhardt taking on Melbourne Victory Wednesday, 19th of August. Lions FC taking on North Sunshine Eagles on Tuesday, the 25th of August. And then Preston Lions versus South Melbourne. Geez, that is going to have some fireworks in that one. Wednesday, 26th of August. So some cracking quarterfinals to look forward to. What do you make of the cup sets, Mopper? Do you think it's a reflection of the NPL competitions getting closer to the A-Leagues, or is it just them being out of season? Maybe the A-League clubs not maybe taking it as seriously as they should. I did look into a few of the clubs that have won the Australian Cup over the last couple of seasons to see how they went in the following A-League season, because I'm not too sure why they wouldn't take it a bit more seriously. Or do you think that's going to throw out the rhythm of their season that's upcoming?
The problem is the market's plummeted, and most of the best players have either moved or been sold. So you've got this big gap, and then they can't really get their full strength teams until later on in the market. I think when mostly, all the markets solved over in Europe and that and they can't seem to find the balance. So I think they're heavily hit with a loss of players, and then they're trying to find the balance, and they're out of season as well. So I think those combined cause the A-League teams to not be anywhere near where they need to be. And most of these sides will have probably 5 to 6 additions. Like you look at Wellington, they've lost like 14 to 15 players and picked up 2. So there's no chance that or a team like Wellington are going to go into the Hahn Cup and have much success when they're pretty much their whole side's been decimated and they've got to try to rebuild it. And we're not talking about we're talking about players like their top goal scorer last year who's gone over to Iraq, and you've got Tim Payne who's gone. They've gone to bigger and better things. Yeah, so they can't compete at this early stage just yet. They've still got their core of their youth and the younger players coming through, and most A-League clubs play these younger players and with a mix of who's left and a mix of who they've picked up. But again, they're way off where they need to be elite to start in October. So, we're still in August now. We're still 2 months away pretty much from the A-League. So that is a big a disadvantage to them. Look, the NPL sides, they're at the end of their season. They're fully primed. They're going into the finals. They know where they're finished in the league. Some of them have qualified for the Australian Championship, or they're finishing up where they are in their NPL divisions. And they're just in really good nick and really good order. And it means a lot more to the NPL clubs at this stage because the prize and the further they go, the money that they can get from broadcasting and crowds are huge. So the stakes are so much higher for the NPL sides, and you can see how much it means to these fans because they want to take these A-League clubs down. So I think this is a combination of all those 3 things, and then I don't think it's that A-League teams not taking it serious. They're putting the best that they can out at the moment, but again, they're not quite ready for such elite competitions. Now, if you look at some of the NPL sides that are still in there, South Melbourne, Australian Championship winners last year, always go deep in this competition. RB Leica, top of New South Wales, always go deep in this competition. So we're not really dealing with many surprises as some of the big names are up there. Lions FC obviously winning Brisbane, Preston in the top echelon of NPL Victoria. It's really only North Sunshine and possibly Raiders, who are in a very strong NPL division in New South Wales, are probably the only surprises. But these other NPL sides are highly regarded in their state and are the elite and the best of the best. So they have the slight advantage, and they're just taking advantage of that, what they've got at this stage. So, look, yes, the gap you could say is a little bit smaller because, again, we've been plummeted. Some of the best talent have left the A-League clubs and moved. So you've got to understand that's a huge impact.
Right, I'm going to throw a question on this same kind of line of thinking from Sean. He said, would love to know your thoughts on A-League sides wasting money abroad when we have such talent in NPL. For example, Adelaide, in my opinion, should go for Bourgeois with their lack of depth up front. Bonuses are depth, potential cult figure, cheap, just more spotlight on our lower leagues and our talent. So definitely with the emergence of NPL teams going deeper in the Australia Cup last season and also the Australian Championship, we definitely saw some clubs pick up some NPL talent, but I don't mind that line of thinking because there's plenty of players, and you've identified how well South Melbourne has recruited in the OFC Pro League, or from the OFC Pro League, I should say. And I think there's plenty of players with potential there. And I think with some smart recruitment, they could be looking in our own backyard before picking up some overseas players.
Well, that's where Bull Joach is playing, South Melbourne, isn't it? And if you've seen the goal he scored against Adelaide, it was absolute cracking goal. He is a bit of a journeyman, even though for a young man his age, he has been around those top clubs. He's been with the Bulls, MacArthur Bulls Academy. He's been with the Wolves. So he's been with Heidelberg. He played OSC with Pacific FC. So he is a talent. He just hasn't found that club he's been able to stabilise his career with. But again, good point. I do think we invest sometimes in overseas talent when we could be retaining or spending more money on the youth or some of these up and comers that we've seen in the NPL. So it's a very good question and a very valid one around some of the scenarios of transfer targets for A-League clubs. But more teams in the A-League will help fix this as well. This is why we need more teams in the A-League to keep forming and developing these type of players so they can play at the highest level. With only 12 teams, it's very limited, isn't it? And then we go and see clubs looking at tried and tested European or Asian and African players. It works both ways though, but I definitely agree that Bull Joach, with that goal he scored against Adelaide, is quite capable of playing in the A-League for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just even today, Sydney FC have signed a Nigerian striker, Oriella Sunday, and we mentioned last week, didn't we, about whether it is Matthias McAllister or another one of the young Aussies leading the line, or whether they would go for a bigger overseas striker. And it's probably the perfect example, right, of instead of backing the talent, and look, hopefully for Sydney FC fans, Sunday comes and has a cracking season, but I think too often we look overseas when we could be maybe trying to trust our young Australian players a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, one of my, Mopper subs of the week is Amlani Tadu, who's doing the, I think it's the Peace Cup
What a
or
goal.
something for
What a goal.
Adelaide. Yeah, like there you go. There's another prime example of some young talent. And that side's obviously venturing around Europe at the moment. What exposure they've got. So we know the more teams and the more opportunities these give, and maybe this is why Adelaide's so successful developing their younger players. Is Otten Innovation Cup it's called, and they play Palmeiras, PSV, Man U, Benfica, and Club Brugge. So if you haven't seen that goal, that's get on YouTube or get on X and have a look at it. It was absolutely amazing from Amlani Tadu. So just again shows what's worth investing underneath rather.
And like he's been killing it in the NPL South Australia this season, like scoring
Yeah.
goals for fun. So look, another great example.
Yeah, it just validates that comment, doesn't it? All right, let's while we're on a bit of Asian Champions League, we had Adelaide did miss a chance to join Newcastle in league competition, going down 2-0 last week to Mork's side. They still have an opportunity to compete in the second tier of Asia with Melbourne Victory, and obviously that one will commence once the draw is started. Both draws will be out soon for Newcastle and Melbourne Victory and Adelaide, but a little bit disappointing to see Adelaide lose there. But unfortunately, again, they've lost a lot of key players and couldn't quite match it. They did have a fair bit of possession, but just wasn't clinical enough with the ball. We also seen congratulations to Chelsea in the Ninja A-League Women's All-Stars. Chelsea beat them 3-0, but I thought they put up a very good performance last week, and well done to Ninja A-League stars there, and great to see Chelsea out in a good crowd out there supporting the women of football for Chelsea, especially without their big draw card now, Sam Kerr, and moving forward, but Ellie Carpenter flying the flag for the Chelsea Matildas fans.
All right. Also, Mopper, we saw the announcement this week of the CommBank Young Socceroos squad, who will be part of the qualification games for the Asian Cup coming up. So these kick off from the 31st of August to the 6th of September. A very exciting young group. We obviously know very well that we are the defending champions of the Under-20 Asian Cup, and how well a lot of those players have done through that group in making overseas moves and playing for the Socceroos as well. And geez, looking at some of the names in this squad, mate, there is so much potential, and I'm excited to see this group come together. And it's not even there's even a few names there that are missing off this list, but plenty of experience and plenty of names that we're very familiar with from the A-League and even through their heritage of their fathers, former Socceroos as well.
Yeah, look, we were excited about when the 20s won it last time, weren't we? And this group here have played much more football than the previous group. So, you've got Marcus Neal over there in Sunderland. You've got the boys from City, Baker, Mehmeti, Eames. I've spoken about how highly rated he is. McAllister from Sydney. The list, Trimboli from, I think it's Brentford. I think he plays at these days.
Yep.
There's some top talent here. This just qualifies. So next year, the Asia Cup, I think it's in early January and February again. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's around that January, February. Also, coming up in October and November, we've got the 17s World Cups for the Joeys and young Matildas as well. So a lot of great competitions coming up for the young kids. But yeah, this 20 side, another very promising crop. I almost think, Chief, from looking at this side compared to when we compared the 2 years ago with the 20s that won it, this side definitely looks like they can eclipse and win the Asia Cup again. I stand by. I know Japan's in super form in these age groups, but I remember that last 20s group, they smacked Japan, didn't they, in the semi-final? And this side just looks even better. Am I going off
What
too
chance
early?
of us pinching? What chance of us pinching Lucas Herrington to come back for a cameo?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
No, but seriously, looking through that list, as you said, like Beckham Baker with experience with Melbourne City, Arthur DeLima as well, Luke De Litta, Will Dobson, Hayne Eames, Jesse
Yeah.
Mantell for the Mariners, Matthias
Yeah.
McAllister, Sydney FC, Mehmeti, Sydney FC, City, Neil over at Sunderland, said Jai Rose, Wanderers, Tatu we just spoke about before, Archie Trimboli at Brentford, Lawrence Wong, Melbourne City. Yeah, plenty of game time. These qualifiers, looking at the opposition just on paper, there shouldn't be any issues at all in terms of getting through this, and then it's just about preparation for the Asian Cup proper. We spoke during the week, mate, about how exciting it is for Trevor Morgan to be in charge of this group because we know the type of football Trevor Morgan sides plays as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just can't wait I just can't wait for this Asia Cup. I know it's a little bit away, but geez, this group, oh my God, this is super exciting. Wow, if they can qualify for the World Cup, wow, this is where we want to be. Yeah, I
Yep,
know I'm going off way too early, but looking at this, the games underneath these players are just tenfold to what we've
yep,
seen before.
yep. 100% agree, mate. Exciting times ahead. So yeah, that one will kick off in a couple of weeks' time, and hopefully we get some broadcasts on that, and we can take those matches in for those three qualifiers to play in the Asian Cup. All right, mate. Team of the week. How can we go past Oliver Kalash for his outstanding performance in goals for RP Leichhardt to progress in the Australia Cup? Courtney Nevin at left back, Alessandro Ciccardi in the middle, alongside Jake Gerber-Reich, and to his right, Johnny Katrumbis, his Motherwell teammate, and Oscar Priestman in there as well, making it and Motherwell trio. Josh Nisbet and Riley McGree for his outstanding assist is in that midfield as well. And then what about our goal scorers? Yaya DeCooley, 2 in a week. Teddy Yangi, 2 in 2 matches. And Sam Kerr, absolutely prolific since joining Gotham FC. Who you got on the bench, Mopper?
For the girls, Carly Johnson obviously scored the opener against Calgary, and I can't go past Amelini Tadu's goal in the under-19s invitational event where he scored against Man U, an absolute cracker. If you get a chance to watch it, El Amlani Tadu, who'll be one to watch for the future.
Definitely, mate. Some exciting games coming up overnight. As I mentioned before, Rangers taking on St Mirren. Geez, if Rangers drop any points in that one, there's going to be big trouble for them. Yeah, some exciting times ahead overnight as well with potential. I don't think Noah Bodic will be back, but Hartberg versus Austria, Vienna over there in Austria, obviously. See if Dylan Leonard can get some time. They're playing in friendly against Real Madrid as well. Yeah, some cracking games coming up throughout the week, and what an exciting week it's been for Australian football.
Yep, massive. Most of the leagues are kicked off now, and we're covering it with so many players overseas and at home doing well. Han Cup this week as well for the quarterfinals. So lots of action. This show's gone on. We've tried to cover every angle this week, and there'll be more to cover as we continue to follow Australian football. It is in a very good space, Chief.
All right, thanks, Mopper. Thanks for your time tonight. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back same time next week. In the meantime, enjoy football.
All the best.